I don't want to have to be worrying about paying X amount of dollars for a mortgage if I go overseas for 6 months. Rent money's dead money. So if you're just renting and not putting any assets into the market, whether it be shares, property, whatever it is, that's 100% dead money. But if you're rent vesting and you're putting something for your future, it can be scary, but with the right people, it shouldn't be.
But you're literally getting compounding growth. It's like literally a cheat code. Welcome to Own It, the Property Podcast. Open chats about money, property, and everything in between. I'm Adam Shaw. I'm founder and owner of Locale Property Group. Today we're recording on the land of the Whadjuk Noongar people. In today's episode, I'll be talking to Conor Lloyd-Fox, a property investment strategist from Locale Wealth. Conor has half a decade of property investment experience, helping hundreds of clients, but also being an avid investor himself. Today we're going to talk about a powerful strategy on how you can get into the property market, get ahead, whilst also not compromising your lifestyle. It's called rentvesting, and it could be the smartest way for you to get onto the property ladder. Welcome, Conor. In 2 sentences, sum up what you do at Locale Wealth.
Just help clients get to where they want to be through the use of property investment. Clients not just based in Perth, but all over Australia. And properties all over Australia.
So on this podcast, we've had Locale Homes, we've had Locale Financial, and now Locale Wealth.
Yeah.
If you could give us a rundown on what Locale Wealth's all about.
Yeah, so basically any clients that come to us with the objective of growing wealth, and that can be from a number of standpoints. My job's basically to work out where they are, where they're trying to get to, and then find a property to suit.
Can you tell us about some of the clients you're currently working with and who you've been helping?
Yeah, so the beauty of my job is it's literally all works of life, same as the homes and financial side as well. But I've got clients that are experienced investors, wanting to continue to grow their portfolio. I've got a client that I'm working with right now where we're basically having a review of their position, and then they made a few mistakes along the way, so it's working out how can we tidy this up and move forward from that. And then I've got clients that are rent vesting or just entering the market the first time, want to know where best to go, how best to set themselves up moving forwards and get a foundation going.
Nice. What's the common denominator for most of the clients that you find? What's their biggest motivation and what's probably the biggest barriers that's holding them back to actually building that property portfolio?
Start with barriers, I guess. So barriers, a lot of people either it's terrible advice they've received in the past, or whether that be family members, friends, or just stuff they've read online, or they've from what they think they're capable of versus where they can actually do. That's another one as well. So most everyday mums and dads are actually positioned to do this financially from a financial standpoint. It's just they think or they're doing research the wrong way, or they've got, wrong advice. So common denominator, generally they've seen or missed out on the growth of the last 5 years and they want to know what they can do now. It's pretty easy, unfortunately, to look back and see what you missed out on rather than actually buckle down and do it when you should be doing it.
Absolutely.
So over COVID, a lot of people go, if I bought this, if I bought the house next door, it would be here. That's coming out. And they go, I want to grow that.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to look backwards, but looking forwards, it's a lot scarier. I'm going through it personally and looking at properties in certain growth locations, and I know every single sign is telling me to buy properties in there, and I'm over-analysing, and sometimes I'm not taking my own advice, but it's just key. Like, you can see all the various factors on why a market's going to boom. It's it's literally just pulling the trigger and having the right people around you that are often giving you that nudge to do it, because generally, if you're buying the right locations and you look back 5 to 10, 15 years, you're going to be pretty happy you made that choice. Yeah,
exactly. And it's never should be, if you analyse it too much, you're looking over too small of a time frame as well. If you can make it work over a 10, 15 year period, you shouldn't be having any issues at all.
Correct.
You should be jumping straight into it, as you know. But the thing can't do too much is look back. I've got so many clients that it's a cause of massive pain. They've done something a certain way, or they've made a small change. It's just had this flow-on effect over a number of years, and that can also be a barrier to entry. They think, I've done it this way. I don't want to do it again because this is what happened last time.
Yep.
Well, of course, you did it wrong.
Don't make the same mistake twice.
But yes, and they're the best clients to deal with a lot of the time because they're hopefully open to advice on which way to do it, and a bit more. Again, they know what they've missed out on. It comes into it.
So what makes Locale Wealth different?
Something I think you've been harping on pretty much from day one, even since you interviewed here. Transparency. I think we're pretty upfront about what we do, pretty upfront about how we help our clients. And through that, even though we put pretty much everything we know out on social media, I think that creates a good brand for us. If we're trustworthy and we're trying to help the right people, then the right people come to us and we can help them out. Also, fees. I've seen companies out there just doing similar things to us, and they charge an extra 25, 50. We've seen some that are 130, 150 grand above what they should be paying, which is stupid, immoral. I think that's a good difference that we have.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's customer for life is our business, and obviously we work with customers from the home business, and they may buy their first home through us. We help them with finance, purchase their first home, and then one day they may become a Locale Wealth client, and we can help them build that property portfolio. But it's crucial that we treat them like gold and do the right thing and be transparent and have integrity, and that's a customer for life. So if we're in it for a quick win and a quick sale and move on and cash the check, it's definitely not the right way to be.
Yeah, and even from a company standpoint, it doesn't make sense. If you're charging 150 extra, that's 150k extra, 150k less equity that they can grow themselves, and then you don't have the repeat business. So, yeah, it's interesting. People out there do it the other way.
So let's get into the episode today. Can you tell the listeners about rent vesting?
Yeah, rent vesting, pretty simply, is you're investing in property, but you don't own the property you live in. So you don't have a mortgage over the house you're living. That can be whether you're renting yourself or you're living with mum and dad or anything like that. I've got clients that live out on site for FIFO, getting paid to live out there, and they invest outside of that, and that works great.
Can you tell us why this model is successful and why it works?
Yeah, you're still, something that's getting harder and harder is cost of living, especially for young people. So myself as an example, if I wanted to live in the house I'm living in, I'm currently renting, so I rent vest myself, I'd be paying $1,600 a week in mortgage repayments.
Yep.
I can rent in the same area for $700, $750 a week, and I can invest with the extra money I've got. So I'm living in a 15 minutes of work. I'm right next to the river, but I've still got a lifestyle of that sort of area, but I'm investing outside of that, so I'm not falling behind.
Love that.
And it's as things get more expensive, even like the outer corridors of most large cities, you're driving an hour, 2 hours, and even that's getting too expensive for people to buy as an owner occupied. So yeah, it's an easy way to grow yourself without limiting your lifestyle.
Absolutely, and I think from a young age, or probably my parents, it's always like go out and buy a principal place of residence. It's the first thing you do, and that's what I went and did straight away, and I've fallen for that trap again. But it just makes so much sense when you actually look at the data and look at what that property is going to actually cost you and what the repayments are in an infill location, versus being able to leverage that and have multiple properties working for you in high growth locations, but also the tax deductions and things like that are associated with having an investment property. So do you want to run through a bit of that?
Sure, yeah. Again, with our job, we primarily deal with building, and through that you get way more tax deductions, depreciation for a brand new property than an existing one. So if you are a FIFO worker, like a young FIFO worker, for example, living with their family, you really, thankfully, the family looking after them, you're not paying much in rent. If anything, your expenses are looked after, but you've still got a massive tax bill at the end of the day. So if you're investing in property, you can reduce your tax bill, put some of that towards your future, and not take advantage, but use the bank of mum and dad a fair bit without having to do exactly what you did. But your mum and dad want you to they know what's been happening. They've seen the growth they've had over the number of years in property and getting more and more expensive. So unfortunately, they think the only way to move forwards is to get your kids into a house. And as you said, you're paying up to your ears in mortgage repayments. Yep. And then your lifestyle as a young person might go out the window. You're taking a big bite out of your day-to-day living. So it's something that's becoming more popular through that. And I guess, the benefits of investing in property as well. You get your tax deductions, you get that long-term capital growth, and you can hopefully, if you're doing it right, get the rental income for the rest of your life.
So who's rent vesting best suited for?
Number one would probably be people living with mum and dad, making the most of that situation. It's a situation you may never find yourself in again. And that's number one. Number two is people like myself. I think if you're not sure where you're going to end up, or you're not sure where you want to buy, you don't want to make a mistake and put all your assets into one basket that you might end up not utilising. So it enables you to be pretty fluid with your lifestyle. I invested because I knew I was going to be moving interstate. If I bought my principal place of residence, I would have been paying stamp duty twice, all this stuff that's just throwing out the window, and not to mention the stress on top of that. But it'd be people like that, or people that are have their living quarters paid for whatever reason, as I touched on before, which is pretty rare, but still should be taking advantage of that when you can.
For sure. And I think it's become a bit of a shift. And obviously, we're very house proud in Australia.
Yeah.
And the perception of even renting as someone being successful is like, why are you renting?
Yeah.
But obviously, there's like really serious entrepreneurs out there, like Grant Cardone and things like that are very heavily focused on rentvesting and investing their capital in things that are going to give them the best return. I personally am very open to going into the rentvesting path again. Obviously, having a business and then obviously buying multiple assets and properties. You kind of get less attached to your principal place of residence because you're like, that comes and goes anyway.
Yeah,
Like you fall in love with it, and then you kind of fall out of love with it and want something new and more exciting in a few years' time anyway. So, I think it's crucial that everyone considers it at least because we all run out, and I've done the exact same thing. I've ran out and bought my dream home, or what I could afford as a dream home when I was 21 years old, and I had a crazy big mortgage on it, and then the interest rates went up, and I was literally paycheck to paycheck trying to afford that property. And you're paying that mortgage with taxed money. So you're paying like fully taxed money, and then you're paying a mortgage on top of that. And there's no real benefits that you're getting from that other than obviously just paying a mortgage. I then had housemates and things like that to help me pay that mortgage. But obviously when it's a negatively geared property, you obviously get the tax benefits associated with that. But also you have a rental return on that property, which makes paying that property a lot easier. So if I was just to rent in the area that I was actually living in, it would have been probably half the price of what my mortgage was, and then I could have had some more affordable property assets that probably would have performed better than what the house did anyway.
Yeah.
So definitely something to consider, and it's a smarter way to actually be able to borrow more money, because when you consider the rental returns that you're going to get for the property as well. If you're buying an investment property, they do consider the rent that you're going to get for that, and that helps increase your servicing. So the more servicing you get, the more properties you can buy, the more assets you out there have their compounding growth for you.
And continue that. Yeah, exactly. And you also bring up a good point with the business side of stuff. So if you're starting up a business, most businesses flop within the first couple of years. You want to keep costs low. Yeah. An advantage of rent vesting maybe for a business owner, as you're saying, keep your rent low, but also you're putting a security in place. So that, as that grows in value, if you need equity for money for the business, you take equity out of that property. You've still got an asset growing. That's something that is getting harder and harder as business owners to start up. I think, especially the way things are going. Like, if you're trying to pay for your mortgage and start up a business, you're taking a huge hit to your lifestyle, or it's just not working at all.
Absolutely.
You need a partner that's earning a big income or something to rely on, or to set yourself up to the point to be able to do that.
Yeah, and give us an example of business owners that you're talking about. Obviously, we see business owners which are like sole traders that are tradespeople versus to people owning full businesses. But run me through sort of clients that you're dealing with from a business perspective.
Traditionally, sole traders. So that would be your tradies or something like that are taking the step from, they might have got their apprenticeship, or they might have gotten sick of working for an employer and have gone out and wanted to start their own business. And there is a lot of costs out there. There's a lot of upfront and ongoing stuff. And again, without delving too far into it, unless you got a source of security to grow that business, it can get very, very difficult. As far as your company side of stuff, that's when you really start scaling up well, is if you get to the point of being a company or a trust and you can purchase assets within that, your servicing's not touched for your personal side of stuff. So you can go out and buy a new car and you can still grow your portfolio in the background. You start pumping that, you get more income, which means your company can keep growing, and you start really growing like that. And that's something I've had a few clients call up requesting. They're going, look, I know I'm in a position, I want to make the most of it. How can I start buying properties and put it into my trust through XYZ? And that's always a fun part of the job. You're working with different avenues and working closely with all the existing networks the business owners have got in place, of course. It's also a thing a lot of people wouldn't have too much education on.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, you're not taught anything like this in school. And if you are trading, you go out and you start your business that's doing really well, you're relying on either friends or family, or paying for, or pay walls even with some companies trying to work out what the next step is and how you can start buying assets through it.
Correct. And sometimes they may have an accountant that's helping them with their books, and often accountants can be very conservative as well, and it's like pay down your mortgage and get debt free, and which is literally the wrong thing to do, because you're never going to get it if you completely just pay down your debt and sit and just save money and put it in the bank. So it's aligning with people that have done it before, that understand it, and whilst getting leverage and buying investment properties, there is an element of risk. There's probably more risk associated with doing nothing, because you literally know the result.
100%. Yeah, again, it's easiest to do nothing. It's probably, as far as bravery goes, it's much easier to do nothing stress-wise. But if you got and that's doing it on your own. If you've got the right support in place, they should be educating you on exactly how to do it, what's going to happen, what to expect, and what can actually go wrong.
Yep.
If you're comfortable with what can go wrong, then that takes all the stress off your head.
Absolutely.
If you go, yep, I've got it set up, worst case scenario, if the business doesn't have income for blah, blah, or if we'll lose my job and it's still working, obviously it's going to be a lot easier to move forwards. Sure. And through that, and once you know how to do it, then you keep going and you can start being a bit more aggressive. Continue the journey.
So let's talk money. How does rentvesting get people further ahead than buying their first home?
Well, say an investment property set up now costs $200 per week on average to hold on to. If you compare that to the growth the property's had over the last 5 years, you're putting $200 in, you might have taken $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in growth. If you're saving up for your first home and you're putting $200 per week away, at most that's $10,000 a year. You're getting interest on that, but you're paying interest on that too. They're not, say capital gains tax, of course, on investment property, but in simple, that's the way you're leveraging. You're upscaling the amount of money you are putting away and the returns you get out of that. Same sort of thing with shares. If you're putting away money into shares or you do a margin loan or anything like that, it can be a great way to upscale your money for the amount of cash flow you have. But it also, and through that, so my long-term plan is to continue buying investments, and one day I'm going to sell up shop and then sell my investments, and I'm going to buy in an expensive area, hopefully mortgage-free.
Yep.
And then from there, I've got, should be pretty low outgoing costs after that. I don't have to pay for a roof over your head. And then, just continue the journey from there, either with the properties I haven't sold off or, restarting using the equity in my home.
Absolutely.
It's all tax deductible.
And that's the beauty of building wealth and using property as a vehicle for that, because you can then have those choices to be able to buy that property cash down the track when you so wish. Or some people may want to retire and get a caravan and drive around the world or the country. Yeah. But that's the beauty of having that flexibility. Yeah, and you're not getting outrun as well. So Sean, you're probably going to get on here soon, Pink Man. So he wanted to buy an acreage, and I think it was $800,000 when he was first looking at doing it, and that would have been stretching himself to the max. And he did it the right way. He started investing in property, or buying up properties, and he sold up shop and he bought out there without breaking the bank. And that can be a fear for a lot of people, especially when they're looking at their first house, is they don't want to. They feel like they keep saving. They want to bite the bullet now because they can see that property they're trying to get to running away. But if you're rent vesting, then you're saving money. You got the lifestyle, but you're also working towards that end goal. Absolutely.
At a much faster rate.
What do you need to consider when rent vesting?
Long-term goal would be the main one. So if you know where you're trying to get to, it's a lot easier to work out the steps to get towards that. So, for example, if you're looking over at an area that's quite expensive, if you want to be investing in areas that are outgrowing that, there's no point in rent vesting and you're running away on the treadmill, so to speak. Also, it's probably not worth doing if your rent's about the price, or you're rent vesting in the same area you could buy a property for, and your costs will work out the same. Yep. You might as well be buying an asset that's going to grow outside of that for sure.
Correct.
And I guess making sure that you're buying the right type of asset. So you don't want to be. One of my recent clients that I saw today, actually, they bought the first property they bought it originally to live in, and they had to move out and they started renting it out. And they've been trying to hold on to it, and it's 5 kilometres from a CBD. They paid $600,000 for it, and they bought a property that's just falling apart. It's an older property. It's an apartment. It's had little no capital growth, and it's costing them an arm and a leg. And they're renting, and they're trying to afford this. And with the amount of cash that's coming out, it's just not worth it. Stress and monetarily. If you're buying a cash flow positive or well cash flowed property that's brand new, you don't have to worry about maintenance, anything like that, it makes the whole process a lot easier.
Absolutely. And I think we all fall for that trap that proximity to CBDs means it's going to be a successful property overall, and it certainly isn't. I fell for that, and that was my first property that I bought, and it wasn't a very positive experience. But we've seen some of the highest growth locations in Western Australia over the last few years are the areas like Alkimos and Baldivis's and the Hammond Parks and things like that as well. So whilst it may not necessarily be the place where everyone wants to live because they may want to be near a cafe strip or the city, there's some really solid growth in those areas.
Yeah.
And people will say they may be impacted by peaks and troughs, but all areas were through that period of time.
Oh, 100%.
But the thing is, you can have multiple assets, you have multiple tenants in those assets, and you mitigate your risks because you're spreading your capital over multiple different properties in multiple different locations. They're new properties. You can get tax benefits from depreciation perspective as well. And family areas, they're always going to be positive. People want to move out there with their kids and their families, and they have really good schools and be around like-minded people. People don't really raise families in a bunky old apartment in East Perth.
No,
with interesting
Two
people
better
walking down the street. Affordable housing is always going to be required. There's always people migrating to Australia. There's always people moving out from their mum and dad. There's people that have got jobs that might be early on in their career, fresh out of uni. They can only afford a certain amount. So if you're buying affordable properties, but affordable properties that are set up for growth in high growth locations, you're pretty safe.
Yeah, of course. And you also, it's the amount of people that can buy $1.5 million, $1.2 million mortgage now is completely different to what it was 5 years ago. Correct. Yeah, your 2% interest rates and everything like that. So the majority of purchases, they're in those lower thresholds. And that's why they've been pumping so hard, and they'll probably continue to pump. Perth, for example, it's well above the decade average by something like 30% for new dwelling approvals, that's not happening in the middle of the city. That's happening in the outskirts, and that's going to keep going. And as interest rates keep down, that means people going further out means the places that were all of a sudden an hour away and they're on the outskirts of the city aren't there anymore. There's 3 more developments there.
For sure. Yeah. My parents built in the absolute sticks back in the day, and I've got a photo of me running around in a nappy, and it was just sand dunes, and literally their block was the only one with a slab, and that area was Sorrento.
Yeah, so, okay, wow.
You look 30 years later, a bit over 30 years now, but
sorry.
I'm flattering myself. But, that was the perception of being the sticks, and everyone's like, why the hell would you move out there? And we saw that, only half a decade ago with Alkimos, people were like, why the hell would you move out to Alkimos? And now it's just a thriving community, and we're pushing all the way up to Two Rocks now. Yeah. So get in when you can. I think that's key, and it's affordable. And often when they are emerging, that's a positive thing as well, because you're getting in at the early stages. Yeah. You're getting in there before the infrastructure, but the infrastructure is coming. We always knew the infrastructure and the train line and things were coming for the Alkimos areas, and now that they're there, we've seen them absolutely skyrocket. So, just got to be cautious of the information you take on, because there are people that say that the outer areas aren't necessarily the right investments, but contrary to that, you could say the inner areas are, yes, they're blue chip, they're safe, they're stable, but they haven't experienced the same growth. And you've got to feel pretty comfortable hemorrhaging a weekly repayment every week with your with the yields. The yields on those inner city suburbs are horrendous. Some of the areas where I live, the yields are, the yields are around 2%, where some of these outer areas are getting yields within 5, 6, and up to 7%.
Up there, exactly.
So what are some of the mistakes that people make when rent investing?
It sounds harsh, but listening to mum and dad is usually the biggest one, because especially probably the main demographic that does this is young people, and everything between when your mum and dad first bought their house or even started investing, tax laws have changed, the market's changed, everything like that. It's completely different. You touched on before, you're talking about yields in blue chip suburbs. Not only that, but tax deductions are completely different as well. So you got lower rent, you haven't got any help from the ATO helping you pay for this thing. And I think, over leveraging as well, as far as people trying to go way too close to the city instead of going for something safe that they can afford is a big one. I'd rather have 2 properties worth $650,000 each, paying me about $650 a week rent.
Absolutely.
Costing $200 each or $100 each, versus one property worth 1.2 mil that's costing me $500, $600 a week to hold on to.
Correct. With maintenance costs.
Exactly. Yeah. Everything added on. Not just yield and tax deductions. So it's about getting the right advice, and just being disciplined as well is a big part of it. You understand what you're going through, having the right people to support you through that. Yep. Pretty big pointers.
I recently bounced a property past my old man. I still talk to him all these years and get his advice. I don't know why, because it's usually wrong. Yeah. I hope you're listening, Dad. But I was looking at property in Melbourne. He's like, why the hell would you buy a property that you can't drive past? Who's going to do the maintenance? And I go, I'm pretty sure if I had a property in Perth, I'm not going to be out there mowing the lawns as well. So
100%,
it's kind of irrelevant if I've got a property manager in Melbourne managing it, or I've got a property manager here, if I've got a handyman here in Perth or a handyman here over in Melbourne. So again, that's just advice that I'm like, that's just a perception. That's just what they're used to. And obviously back in the day, it was probably a lot harder to organise things on the other side of Australia. But in this day and age, it's all about buying in the areas that are emerging. I've made that mistake. We obviously had a really tough time here in WA, and I had a lot of properties. I held them. I battened down the hatches, and I didn't actually look to diversify and look Australia-wide. And I had the opportunity to do so. I had the earning potential, or the earning and the serviceability to do so, but I just looked at the WA market and I sat on my hands and said, the WA market's recessed at the moment. Let's just sit it out and wait 5 years, where the whole East Coast was absolutely booming and I could have got immense returns. So that's the importance of not just looking at the sentiment in your own backyard as well, because there's opportunities. Whilst every state is going to have its peaks and troughs, that's cycles. When one's going off, the other one's going to be down. So it's being strategic with your money and capitalising on one and then pushing it all across. We saw that with the East Coast. East Coast investors were flying in here in droves in 2020, and they bought up probably 30 to 50% of the properties across established and new builds as well. Huge investor driven market. But prior to that, for the 5 years earlier, I'm pretty sure I never saw an East Coast investor prior to that, obviously running building companies and running sales teams. So it was a huge drive. And now Melbourne's experiencing the exact same thing. I'm looking at Melbourne and they're like another person from Perth trying to invest in Melbourne. So everyone's capitalised here and now putting it into a state that's re-emerging. So again, it's having that advice and that that experience around you that if I just listened to someone that actually knew what they were doing, I would have been way more further ahead.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head, I think. I had a client before that he's in Melbourne and he wants to buy houses to flip. And you need something that's, if you're already working a full-time job and you're flipping houses part-time, you need something close by. Very, very unlikely the best suburb to invest is just next door.
Yep.
So you're shooting yourself in the foot. On the parenting side of stuff, my dad actually told me not to invest in property. He bought an apartment in the CBD of Melbourne for, say, $200,000 in like early 2000s. It's worth, I think, $210,000 now.
Wow.
He's done it completely the wrong way and he's saying all this, that, and it's just like, yep, mate. Do you know what I do for a job?
Absolutely. And one bad experience as well, like literally everything in life. If you go out and play footy, you're going to have a bad experience the first time you do it, and property investment without the right advice and people around you, you're probably going to have a bad experience. But it's only a bad experience and it's only a loss if you stop there. You need to take those learnings and reinvest and go again. And I've grazed my knees plenty of times with properties, but I've also had some amazing wins. And now every time I go in to purchase a property, I've got all those considerations of the losses and challenges that I've had and also the wins. And you go in with a lot broader lens and more strategic lens. And that's what we're really passionate about, is making sure that we've all got the battle scars to prove that we've made some mistakes, but we've also had some wins, and we can share those insights.
And you, even when you graze your knees, you know coming out of it what to like what position you got into. You knew it wasn't the end of the day. It didn't ruin you for the rest of your life. You knew what to expect. So it's about diving into it, having the right advice, and you should be fine.
Correct. And grazing knees in context is still actually getting ahead. It's just probably didn't grow. Others.
You paid a bit extra.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
So what kind of growth can people expect investing in these new and up-and-coming areas?
Well, like you mentioned earlier today, actually, over the last 5 years, we've had upwards of 50% in some of those outer areas. Like if you're looking at areas like Logan in Queensland, the Armidale area in Perth, like Armidale was going at something like 30%, 40%, 20%. Elizabeth in Northern Corridor of Adelaide was pretty much the same. And they're not necessarily the up-and-coming suburbs we would recommend now. But you've got explosive growth. You're buying in at a low price point. I was having a look before, and we were talking about blue chip suburbs. So sales growth over the last year for houses in Scarborough has gone up between what you're looking at, like 6 and 7%, I think it was. In a place like Lakelands, which is an hour out of the city, that's gone at 9%, and then Yanchep up north's gone at 12.9 or 12.6% or something like that. So you can buy 2 properties in Yanchep, or one in Lakelands, one in Yanchep, for the same price you get in Scarborough, and you're outgrowing it by a significant margin, whilst also having a better yield.
Correct.
So it's the growth we've had is really, really good. Looking forwards, again, like you were saying, listings is actually down in a lot of areas. It's not going to be the explosive 40% you've probably seen. Victoria might be up there, like it'll be well into the double digits probably over the next few years, doing a bit of catch up. But it's more, it's realizing where you are in the cycle as well.
Yep.
If you're getting something that's cheap and your yield's great, you're just waiting for that next boom to come.
Absolutely.
If you're buying in it earlier, and by the time the booms comes, you're generating cash flow, you've paid down your mortgage, which is tax-free, capital gains tax-free income as well, anything you pay down. It's just about knowing where you are in the cycle, when the growth that will come is significant.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you do need, like you said, with the yields, you need to check yourself. Obviously, I'm looking in Victoria at the moment, in Melbourne, and I keep looking at properties and I keep going, oh my God, the yield on this is horrendous. And I'm like, of course it's horrendous. That's why the property market is where it is, and it's going to recover. In saying that, speaking to a lot of agents on the ground, a lot of property managers on the ground, they're seeing immense traffic through the rental properties, and they're seeing rapid growth already in the rental prices. The real bottom end areas are starting to see some rapid growth in the established market as well, so we're going to start to see that stock diminish, but there's still incredible deals to be had in Victoria, and like developers over there, they've got significant rebates on the land. They've got titled stock sitting there. They've got up to $40,000 in rebates, which is just incredible, which in WA, we've never had a rebate that big, but all those rebates are long gone because we're in a booming market. So it's really smart for people to consider areas, not just WA, but those areas that are down. And yes, you're going to be carrying probably a more challenging yield for the first 12 months, but by the time it's built, that yield's probably going to be increased by then anyway.
100%.
So
you can. I think. Sorry, looking at the stats, I think it was a lot of areas are like 6 or 9% rental growth, and they're still terrible yields, so they must have been really difficult. You can see that, as you said, it's the start of the cycle they're experiencing. Absolutely. By the time, if you give 8 months, 10 months for a build, you're actually getting to pretty good yields by that point, and you're getting in. There's not many suburbs in around Brisbane, Perth, or Adelaide that you can be 35, 40 minutes from the city, like you can in Melbourne. Have the amount of infrastructure they have, and you're still in like the low 600s for a 4-bedder.
Yeah, it's incredible.
For brand new as well. So it's and that's we see that. We see that in people approaching us. We see that in our the people we talk to in the industry. They know Melbourne's having to start that turn, which only means that there's going to be more demand. If everyone's saying that, that's what starts. Sentiment's
massive. Already happening.
Sentiment's
there. I recently looked at a property for myself, and it was in Rowville, and it was sub 600 for a built home. And the gentleman that was listed it and was showing it, he had over 40 groups through, and it sold for about $50,000 over the height of the range. So people are going in there really hot, and that affordable part of the market's already starting to move. But the established stock's starting to move, but the house and land space is it's starting to get a bit more traction, but there's still incredible deals to be had there. Like we're saying, with those rebates, yes, the yields aren't the best, but look, I held my properties through when it was 14 to 20 in Perth, and I had multiple rental properties, and I was hemorrhaging. The yields were tough, and they were probably worse than what they are getting in Melbourne. Everything's cyclical, and whilst WA is absolutely firing, it's had its tough times, and Melbourne's now having its tough time, and it will rebound. It's one of the, if not, between them and Sydney, they're pretty close from a population point of view. It's an absolute powerhouse. It's a cultural hub. It's one of probably the best cultural hub in Australia. All the universities there, the tertiary education, the immigration. Building approvals have dropped there, obviously because the sentiment's low, and a massive oversupply that happened through the cycle. Building approvals are way down. So it's exactly what happened in WA, where we saw building approvals drop, and then that slowly starts creating your undersupply. You'll start diminishing your established stock. The building approvals are down, and then they'll start to see, they're still seeing migration coming in. They're starting to see a bit of a rental crisis over there now. The rental prices are going up. And then the building industry will kick into gear probably when it's too late. It takes 12 months to 18 months to get those homes actually handed over. So then we have an immense shortage, and then we have a boom. So it's all happening. It's the data's there, the facts are there, and us West Australians have just lived it, literally, the last 5 years. So Probably the Victorians are probably feeling like there's a world of pain, and they probably haven't experienced that in a long period of time. But us West Aussies have been right through that, and we can see there's an opportunity.
They've been outside the party watching everyone have fun.
Yeah,
and then,
for sure.
They've finally got the invite.
Yeah, for sure. So what is a good yield, and what should people look out for?
Yeah, that is a good question. So it's not only yield, like it's how it all works. You could have a terrible yielding property that's paying you heaps in tax to make up for it, or it's big in the Melbourne market. It might be you're copping the short yield. You're going, I can survive on this yield, but I'm going to take the massive capital growth that's coming in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. It is completely client dependent. I'm pretty big on good yields, just because not only for your affordability on day-to-day living, but your affordability for next properties, but also your servicing as well.
Yep.
Banks look at it finally as an extra income, of course, and that allows further growth as you're going along. I'm very biased to the Perth market and the yields you can get over here, which is still insane. And I think if you're starting out, it's definitely a good option to look into is the Perth market.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're going in pretty painless. I've had clients without putting any cash deposit down after all their loans, borrowing everything, so stamp duty, plus your rental expenses like your insurances, maintenance, everything like that. It's either cash flow positive or costing like $50 a week.
Yeah,
which if you're
incredible.
In the market at the moment, you're taking that every day of the week. You shouldn't be saying no to that. So it's all about where you're sitting. I got clients that are much higher income that might cop a bit less of a yield just to chase growth because they need more equity. They don't have much equity in their own home. So they can afford to keep growing as far as the servicing barrier exists. But the equity growth is what they need to chase.
So what's the biggest myth you hear about rentvesting, and what are we going to bust today?
Rent money's dead money. 100%. If you're just renting and not putting any assets into the market, whether it be shares, property, whatever it is, that's 100% dead money. You're not utilizing your increased cash flow. But if you're investing in the property market, then like I said, with my position, I can afford to purchase multiple properties through the cheaper rent I have. Whereas if I'm leveraged up in my ears with my owner occupied, I literally might not even be able to grow. That is an advantage where rent investing has over an owner occupied, because you might be living in your owner occupied, not able to grow, but also you're not living in a place you want to live anyway. So you're not ticking any of the boxes. You're stuck. Whereas if you're rent vesting, you can live where you want, you got cash flow to grow, and you're putting something for your future.
How do we get started with rent vesting?
Chat to us.
That's
I guess do your research. There's being us and I think our connections. There's so many people out there that can get started with property. We might not have actually realise. Like we've got incentives or relationships with builders and that sort of stuff where you can get in with a super low deposit. You can of course use your equity in your mum and dad's through a guarantor loan, everything like that, which people not. Again, you're not taught this stuff in school. So it's just about seeking the right advice again. And as a business, where don't cost anything to have a chat to. Worst case scenario, you find out all the information, you don't want to do it.
Yeah,
sweet.
Absolutely.
We don't mind. At least you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I think the key part for people to start is just looking at their financial situation, and there's like literally no shame in whatever financial situation you're in. If you're in a solid job, doesn't matter if you've got no savings or even if you've got some debt, the key is to start the process and start scratching and seeing what you're capable of. And we've seen
100%.
every single situation, all walks of life, and generally we can help most people as long as they're like really committed to the process, and it doesn't mean they have to be ready right now. They might be ready in 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. We'll be there. We can help you. And the beauty of the property market, especially in WA, there's often delayed titles, so they may not be ready today, but they can actually secure a property with a really small deposit and then pedal like hell and save their money and shut down credit cards and do whatever they need to do. And they're technically on the property market without even paying for a property. They just put a deposit down. They're getting capital growth on something they're not paying for. So we encourage just like as soon as you can, speed to market's key. Because you're essentially getting capital growth on that property right away without paying anything for it. And you're also getting an increased yield on that property without paying for it as well. So it's like, why would you not want to own something that you're not paying for, that you're getting free money, free capital growth on? So speed to market's key. Just talk to us, see if you're in that position, and we'll be super transparent with you and go, you can, but you've got some work to do. So let's you're either on or you're off, and we make it happen. Or
if you can't, what do you need to do to be able to be in the position to do so?
Correct.
Which is even massive itself, and that's not just I guess rent vesting, but I guess property in general. If people wanted to keep growing, they could have a chat to us and we'll tell you what you need to do.
Absolutely. we've seen situations where people are so close, and we've actually seen their salary, and they're probably a little bit underpaid compared to market. And it's like, hey, have you ever considered asking your boss for a pay rise? And they're like, no, I haven't in the last few years. And they've gone and asked for a pay rise, and that means A, they got a pay rise, but B, they also could service that home. So that went from being paid less to having no home to being paid more and getting a home, which is super positive. So it's always worth talking to someone that does this every day, because we can give you some real transparent feedback on what you can actually do and where you should be from a salary point of view as well.
And it can be extremely frustrating as a everyday person trying to work out. You might just get told by one mortgage broker, no, I can't do this. Or you go to one bank and they say, no, you can't do this. And they'll expand upon why. Just because you talk to one bank doesn't mean you haven't talked to every bank. There's always different stuff you can do. So I've got a client recently working with at the moment where their existing broker told them they couldn't do something. And within a day, our broker in-house had a solution for them, could achieve everything.
Amazing.
It's difficult. You're not taught. And getting the advice from... one, unbiased advice, but two, solid advice, can be very hard to get in tandem. And it's when you're starting out as a rentvestor, you want to know what your options are, where you see it, what you can get to, and then it's pretty straightforward from there as a process as well. You're putting your deposits down, you're waiting for titles if that's the case. You're building up your savings. Once it comes into it, you're in the build. We're helping you through the build. You know what to expect, and then from there you're into tenanting, and then you're home safe. So it's about have a chat to us.
Love it.
Just talk to us.
So you got 30 seconds to pitch to someone that's sitting on the fence about rent investing. Why should they do it?
Look how happy I am. look at me. It's lifestyle. You want to continue living the lifestyle. You don't want to be left behind. It's the easiest thing to do. It's not that stressful at all. You can. It's actually a bit of fun. You're looking at the markets. As an investor, I like looking at and trying to beat out other people and beat other people's advice specifically. And I think being young, I've got a lot of stuff I want to do. I don't want to have to be worrying about paying X amount of dollars for a mortgage if I go overseas for 6 months. I can still live the lifestyle, and which I keep harping on, but it's an important point.
Yep, absolutely. You're in market, which is key.
Yeah.
And like you said, no compromise, get to live the life you want, live in an area they love to live, but you're literally getting compounding growth, which is, for me, that helps you sleep at night. People are like, debt, mate, how do you sleep at night with all this debt? It's like, for me, that makes me sleep at night knowing that I've got assets creating an income for me and building wealth for me, and it's not just reliant on me with my hourly rate, and that's scary.
Yes,
because we've only got a certain amount of hours a day, 8 hours a day. We work like hell, and then your income's capped on that. And it's crazy to think that we only can set ourselves up in retirement based on our income that we're earning. If you've got multiple assets for you, it's like literally a cheat code.
Yes.
Like you've got multiple incomes building, and whilst the income's not necessarily falling into your pocket every week, fortnight, month, year, it is building in the form of equity. And like, sure as hell, like you sell it in 15 to 20 years, you're going to be pretty happy.
Yeah. And people do say like having a roof over your head for an owner-occupied mortgage is security.
Yeah.
But worst case scenario, you lose a roof over your head, you might just have to move into your... kick your tents out, move in.
Yep.
Worst case scenario. That can be an option you look at down the track. You still got that. As far as incomes go, it is so hard to actually improve your income.
Yep.
If you either got to upskill or change jobs, if you're already in the industry and you're on up a threshold, it can be very tough to keep going.
Absolutely.
And then people get stuck in that hole for 30, 40 years.
Yep.
And it is something stubborn Australians do where they've been in the same position for 20 years and they don't change anything, and they wonder why they're still in the same position.
Correct.
It doesn't get any. You have to make changes to make things easier. It doesn't get easier, and can be scary, but with the right people, it shouldn't be.
Absolutely. Base it on an average income, approximately, maybe a bit above average, say $100,000 a year. People work really hard for $100,000 a year, and they may be stuck on that. They may get double that over a whole career and end up in an executive position and double that. But if you have multiple assets working for you, it's not unrealistic to have a couple of properties, and they could be generating close to that in capital growth each year in high growth locations. So you've basically tripled your income. Via smart money management and leveraging other people's money, and you're getting yourself ahead versus earning $100,000 a year and banking $20,000 of that in the bank. Now you've got two assets performing and potentially generating
more. And
$200,000 a year for you.
Instead of having to work more to earn more money, you're working less to earn more money anyway. Correct. So it's a sacrifice, but it's a sacrifice you should be making. I love my job. I don't want to work forever. I want to be supplementing that income with assets. I want to be working because I want to work. My mum's like that. She's a teacher. They'll have to shoot her and drag her out of the school, I think, to get her out. But that's an option I want. And she's the option to retire anytime she wants.
Yep.
She's built herself up. Her and my father have built themselves up nicely. But it's, again, if you're stuck in, particularly on the tools, something like that, and the body starts going down, you want the option to work less. It's the sad reality. And I think a huge majority of Australian workers are either in the construction industry for homes or in mining.
Yep.
That's a massive majority of Australians are on the tools. So, and investors are nowhere near that percentage. So there's obviously people out there that aren't doing this side of stuff. And again, it can be hard. If you feel like it can be hard to invest, you feel like you're not in the position to, at least have advice around that. Talk to people that know. Because there's always stuff that can be done or work towards.
Absolutely. And like you said earlier, it's not as hard as people think. And people think it's for the rich. And investing in your future is an actual positive thing as well.
Yeah.
People think it might be a capitalist thing and we're putting rental pressures and driving first-time buyers out of the market. If anything, the government needs investors to be able to create rental properties to create affordable housing. The government doesn't create affordable housing. They're not building enough affordable houses to supply the affordable housing need. So investors are crucial into the market, and they are what's needed to provide enough housing. So that's why they do give tax breaks, and that's why they do stimulate the market to encourage.
You're doing as an investor. If you're doing the way we do it, you're doing the right thing, which is adding more supply.
Absolutely.
Which is if there's more supply, then we wouldn't be having the issues we are with the housing market. It's unfortunately it's not an easy fix. No. There's no one thing that they can change to make it. But as a property investor, if you're trying to buy your first home, unfortunately, it's not getting any easier. Yep. It's just going to get more and more difficult. So you either have to suck it up and get in the market now, whether that be rent vesting or buy, or just try and catch that train, which is, As an example for myself, I was umming and ahhing about buying a owner-occupied in 2020 for, I think it was $300,000 or something like that. And that was brand new. I ummed and ahed about it 2 years later, or 2.5 years later. I think it's worth $620,000 if I just bitten the bullet. But I was too worried about how expensive things were. The market crashing, because it was starting to boom at that point, everything like that. And I got a negative in my head. Should have done it, like you said.
Pull the trigger. Yeah. Stop overthinking.
100%.
What's your advice to people that think it's way too hard to get into the market?
Lower expectations. If we look back to our families, everyone's seen it. It comes out all the time, where the average median wage versus house price. Your parents were buying much closer to the city, like you were talking before with your family, much closer to the city, much cheaper for 3 times their wage or something like that. Nowadays, that's not the position we're in. It's something that's not. I don't know why people think time will make things easier. Unless you're growing significantly in income, which, as we've already touched, is actually very, very difficult, or there's a severe housing crash, which in all Australia's history hasn't really happened. And the way things are at the moment, doesn't look like happening anytime soon. There's a housing shortage. We've got no choice. So it's about, sticking this, working out where you want to get to. So if you got a dream home, that's absolutely fine. That's more than likely for 90% of people not going to be your first home without significant help from your family, the lotto, or God knows what. Hopefully nothing illegal. You need to be entering the market into assets that are outgrowing where you want to get to. And you can probably expand a bit further on that.
Thanks for putting me on the spot. My first property was a heaper. It was it was a good suburb. On reflection, it was in Heathridge. Back then, Heathridge was a very affordable suburb. I paid $228,000 for that house. It literally had farm animals living in it prior to me living in it, prior to me buying it. I had to do a full gut job, clean it up, and I made a bit of money on it and sold it, and then bought my second home, and that was an upgrade, and I renovated that one and tied it up, did it again. I also bought some investment properties, did some subdivisions, did retain and builds, and fundamentally, like, I've only just started to get into a home now that I love, and that's I don't even want to work out the number, how long ago that was, nearly 18 years ago, or when I bought my first property. So it was always a long game. It was always about building wealth. It was always about learning, trying all different types of properties, and that's why I just love sharing, our experiences. And I've taken advice from people and done retain and builds and infill areas. It was the right advice at that time. I bought in, old properties in historic locations with heritage listing things on them, where when I was trying to renovate it, I had to get it signed off by the heritage listed board. It was a nightmare, all sorts of things. And on reflection, the most highest performing properties that have done the best for me and I still hold were the ones in the Greenfield estates. They've always had a tenant in them. They're still in really good condition today, even though I built them 10 years ago, because they're pretty much they were brand new and they still look very new. I've had to give them a lick of paint, and I keep going. So
yeah. Well, sorry,
just complete fucking random tangent then.
But what you were saying, 18 years. 18 is a good time frame. A lot of people. So this is one of my friends is genius in like the mortgage broking area. He always says people overestimate what they can do in 1 to 2 years, but underestimate what they can do in 10. If you set a 10-year time frame and you start building towards that, think about if you bought a house 10 years ago and then you bought your neighbouring house in the same suburb, the same price, you would either be probably mortgage free by now, or you'd have enough money to buy double the house you do now.
Correct.
So but people go, oh, I'm frustrated, I can't buy that house I want now. I'm just going to keep saving, keep trying to save. Mate, that house is going to keep growing by 20, 40, 50, 60, 100 grand, depending on where it is and what sort of suburb it is. And it's very unlikely that you're growing to meet that. Not only from a deposit standpoint, but also your servicing as well. Eventually, it's going to be to the point where all you can afford is Greenfield, is your first home. Again, without the bank of mum and dad or anything like that coming into it. So when it comes to rent vesting, again, you're hitting the benefit. You can live in a house in one of those expensive houses you want to for much lower than your outgoing costs. And then what you're doing, you're investing, buying, building up your growth over, say, 10-year period, 18-year period, whatever it is, and you cash it all in and go from there.
Correct.
I'm very passionate about it, as you can probably tell. And I run into families all the time that have done what we preach, and I've seen people that are they might be still waiting to try and buy that house and wondering why they're not getting anywhere. And it is hard. It's either acknowledging that you've done the wrong thing, or it's acknowledging that you're going to have to bite the bullet. But sacrifice is important. If you're not sacrificing for your future, you're never going to get where you need to be.
Absolutely. And that probably loops back to first-time buyers or people that aren't in the market and how to get into the market. It is sacrifice, and it's working really hard, like our grandparents and our parents did. Obviously, they went with, whilst they were very blessed with how affordable housing was, they worked pretty bloody hard. And going out for dinner was like a monthly thing. I remember as a kid, we never went out for dinner. It was like a monthly thing, and my old man was too tired. He took us to the random Chinese shop around the corner. Perfect. And we'll complain about how expensive it was the whole way home. But
good Chinese.
Yeah, I was average. It was cheap. But the key is being frugal. Obviously, we're in a fast-paced life these days, and everyone's got the newest technology, and everyone wants to go out and cafes and lifestyle and travel. And that's totally fine if that's what you want to do. I would never begrudge anyone traveling, but if you go traveling, you're basically allowing yourself to not get into the market sooner, and you can't complain that you've missed the market if you decided to go 6 months traveling. A, you've forgone an income for a period of time. B, the market's moved. So coming back and saying, it's too expensive, this is annoying, and I'm not in the area where I want to be. Unfortunately, that was partially within your control. Partially it wasn't. But you just got to pull your socks up and do whatever you can in the current situation and just get into the market, because your first house is not going to be forever home.
And it's not only holidays, that's the stuff we see it all the time, especially in Perth, is your toys. you can look at, say you're buying a brand new ute for $80,000. Most suburbs that you could get into would probably have grown by $100,000.
Yep.
So you could, if you just bite the bullet in a year,
Yeah.
if you bite the bullet for a year, put $200 away towards the future, you sell up that asset after a year, after you get your reduced capital gains tax, buy your Hilux brand new without any debt.
Yeah, correct.
It's
I'll pay it off for 7 years.
Yeah, exactly. And a year's not that long.
No.
And it's not how you spend your money. That's not what we really care about here. We don't care about what you're putting it towards. It can be anything. Yep. We just want to make sure you're putting yourself in the best position. You're not taking a step backwards to get there.
Correct.
Again, something in Perth where if it was just, we don't see it much in Adelaide, so everyone's a bit tighter on their money in Adelaide, where like you don't have your jet skis and your boats, that sort of loans. But yeah, I've seen multiple jet skis, multiple boats. You got car loans, and they literally couldn't grow if they wanted to. They've got to focus on paying that down, or they have to take equity out to refinance to have a shot at it, which isn't a great result either.
No.
It's still an option, but it's something that, again, is ingrained into people to spend. And that's why you see when interest rates come down, you start to see that again. You start to see people buying up more. They don't go, I can grow and buy investment properties. They go, I can buy that Hilux I want now.
Absolutely.
Which is so silly.
Well, we saw that with COVID, and obviously we had really low interest rates, and we saw Toyota had a wait list of 2 years for any sort of Land Cruiser or Hilux. Caravans were selling for more than what you could buy them for new. It was just insane. And the classic car market went off its style because everyone had free, like the money was cheap, so everyone was buying, and we saw all the toys essentially booming because of that. But a huge one is just delayed gratification. Obviously, I've been a sucker for it. I bought things and lost money on them, and it's all well and good me telling young people now that I've been through that. But a toy isn't that exciting for a long period of time. You get it, the novelty wears off pretty quick. You get your new car, you drive it around for 3 months, you really don't care.
I think you're already sick of your new car, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the key is like setting yourself up for the long term, because that is like gratification and like delayed gratification. That's something that's never going to get old. That you can see yourself building wealth, and you can see yourself getting to that end goal and that, I guess, finish line, whether it's retiring early, whether it's buying your principal place of residence cash, whether it's taking your family on this crazy luxury first class holiday. You're working towards that versus getting that quick hit, but that's actually sending you backwards every time you do it.
100%, yeah. And again, it's not that you can't do that stuff. It's just there's better ways to set up yourself to be in the position too. And yeah, like you said, over 7 years, if you've got a car loan for 7 years, that's 7 years of, if you put it in property terms, property growth. I mean, it probably doubles in 10 years' time. You've got a $600,000 property. You're probably looking at like, it'd be over half. It'd be $400,000, $500,000 you've missed out on. That you could buy 6 Hiluxes.
For sure. And that Hilux is now worth 30 grand or 20 grand 7 years later than what you paid for 80 grand. So thanks so much. Thanks for sharing your insights on rent vesting, and you've certainly got me excited about doing it all over again.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me. It was good fun.
And that's a wrap of today's episode. Big shout out and thank you to Conor from Locale Wealth for sharing his insights about rent vesting and being able to live in a location where you love to live without compromising and still getting ahead in the property ladder. If you found today's episode helpful, please follow us for more insights on how you can find your perfect place. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.